Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. I'm just making a video today because it is December and it is 75 outside. 75 and it's December. Can't complain. But wanted to make a video today just kind of piggybacking a little bit off of last week's video I did talking about pros and cons of keeping a 2011 to 14 GT500 and or going forward with possibly getting a 2021 on up. But I wanted to talk about the pros about keeping, if you have a 11 to 14 GT500, the pros about keeping that, especially if you have one that is paid off and you don't owe anything on it, because the value of those are slowly, if you haven't seen already, starting to go up in value, and want to see if it's potentially a good investment, I guess you could say, if you have one. So let's get into that. Alright, so I know to some extent videos like this have been done, talking about why have a 11 to 14 GT500 that you should hang on to those. A lot of those have been done specifically for the 13 and 14 GT500s, and understandably so. It's the last of the big displacement, the 5.8. Obviously the 07 to 12 or the 5.4 obviously. So, but mainly want to discuss between the 11 to the 14, because everyone is a little biased to what they own. Obviously I have a 2012, so it's the last of the 5.4, and in my opinion it was the last full year that Shelby had his input on it. Obviously he died in 2012, so that was the first year that the 2013 came out, and he did have his, I don't know if he had a say in the 2013 or he gave his go-ahead. I'm not really too sure the specifics of that, but when it came to the 12s and the 11s, I feel like he had more of an input or say on things. Clearly, I'm more biased toward the 11 and 12s because I own one. Now, if my car was completely stock still, would I have gone with a 2013 or 14? Probably, but it's not. Now, I personally believe the 11s and 12s versus the 13 and 14s. You have more room, in essence, I guess, to mod the car. You have, 550 horse factory. You have more room to go before you start having issues with like the internals versus the 13 and 14s. They're obviously putting out 662. All this has been talked about before, so for a lot of you this isn't anything new. You get the first gear that wraps out to about 60 miles an hour. The 13 and 14s, 11 and 12s, I gotta shift within like the first like 5 feet off of a dick. So that's another thing. Why am I not talking about the 2010s? Because the 2010s I think are the bastard child. It's the transition year between the 07 to 09. It's that same iron block from the first generation of the 07 09s, but it's the new refresh body style. But it's the bastard child year. It's what everyone refers to. But the main big talking point is, like I said, it is the last generation with a 6-speed manual. I get why they went with a dual clutch in the 2020s and up, but you lose the drivability experience, you lose the connection to the car, you lose more the fun factor. And I've been in the 2020, I was in Shelby Flyer's car about a month or so ago. I'll put a link to that up here also as well. His car is those cars are awesome. I'm not gonna say anything about those cars that are in like a negative sense whatsoever, but you don't have the ability to personally shift the car like a manual transmission like you can with these. Also too, with the live axle in these things versus the independent rear suspension in the S550s, and of course in the new version of the GT500s compared to what we have in these, the live axle versus the IRS, these feel, not just look like a muscle car, but they feel more like a muscle car. You get the, like I've said before with this car, you get the overall fear factor of trying to keep the car straight, and if it's gonna end up in a ditch, and it takes more overall skill to drive a manual transmission, a car with over 700 horsepower to the tires. So with everything going electric, I think eventually, if the GT500 is going to continue to be produced, that will eventually hop on that train and be electric also. I'm guessing within the next 10 years. Ford has come out and said that they are going to continue to produce gas-powered V8 Mustang as long as people buy it. But I think eventually they're going to get to a point to where they're going to have to cave, and it's eventually going to be included in the GT500. So once that happens, yeah, the 2020 GT500 on up is going to be the last gas-powered big V8 produced, but the 11 and 14s will be the last that are not only that, but the 6-speed manual transmission. And a lot of those, you're not going to find those in a car anymore. You're not going to get a manual transmission car with 600, 700, 800 horsepower. Those are not. That's why I think the value of these are starting to increase, and they're going to go up even higher once all that is not going to be produced anymore. And that's why I said, if you have one, if you have 11 or 12, you're thinking, oh, I want to sell it to get a 2020. I mean, yeah, if you want to spend, obviously, 80, 90, 100 plus $1,000 on one, of course. But I would hang on to it. I would hang on to what you got, because I think, especially if down the road you're looking to maybe sell it, I mean, you might be able to get more than what you're asking for it now if you were to just hang on to it for like another 5, 10, 15 plus years. That's my opinion. I could be wrong. I don't know. But, and not just for the value to sell, it's just the fact that most people that I know that have had a GT500, especially the 11 to 14s that have sold them, have regretted it and wish they still had it. A couple of you that are probably watching this right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, I've thought about possibly selling mine also as well, and hopping on board the 2020 GT500. I still might. I might, but I honestly, like I've said before, I don't think I could get rid of this. I've done everything to this car, all the time, effort, and money that I've invested in this car, to just get rid of it. I don't think I could. Not only because of the hard work and cash and effort I put into it, but like I've said, it's the last of 6-speed manual transmission. Let me just take a second and just look outside. I mean, yeah, it's cloudy, it's overcast. Well, it's not overcast, it's cloudy, but it's 75 degrees. It's December. Back home in Washington, it was yesterday, I think it was like in the low 40s. And raining and disgusting. And it's dark at like 4:30. 75 degrees. In my personal opinion too, I think the 2011 and 12s are going to be more sought after than what people think compared to the 13 and 14s. People want to go after the 13 and 14s because it's the last of the 5.8 big V8. But I think the 11 and 12s are going to be just as sought after, or pretty close to it, because they are more moddable. There's more, you have more room, you have a higher ceiling of what you can do, because 13 and 14 is 662 horsepower. You're with a tune, you're at like 700 crank horsepower. So once you get to 800, man, you're on borrowed time. So there's less room to grow with those with a factory bottom. It's another thing about these cars is you just gotta turn traction control off. Kept the advanced track on though. And every time you give that thing like 3/4 to full throttle, you have that sensation of don't end up in a ditch. Keep the car straight. I mean, I'm not obviously the greatest driver in the world, but there's more of a skill involved when it comes to driving a 6-speed or 5-speed, just a manual transmission in general, and putting down a substantial amount of horsepower. You get more of that fear factor when driving. Now the 2020s on up, you feel more planted, you feel, I don't know if I want to say like more safe, but you feel like the car is in more control. It's just a different built car. It's just how the platform of those cars are. I'm not taking anything away from those cars, because those cars are awesome. It's just a different drivability when it comes to driving those cars. And the 11 to 14s, in my opinion, are the last muscle car GT500. 2020s, there's a different feel. There's a different connection to those cars, and I think you lose that when you take away the 6-speed manual transmission. The live axle in the rear. You have the independent and the new ones, which I get the live axle is better for straight line, and the independent rear, you know, it's more of an all-around car. So I understand why they did that, but you lose that connection, I think, with the car. And that's basically what I'm trying to, like, I guess that's like my main talking point here. There's more of a connection when it comes to these cars. The drivability takes more driver skill depending on what your purpose is with the car. A lot of people have these cars more for straight line drag racing, 2020, 21, 22s, or more combined purpose drag racing and road course. At the same time, the 2011, 12, 13, 14s, the drivability, if you have these as a daily, you can still daily this thing. I choose not to. Mine's 705 rear wheel horsepower. Put that down when it was about 85, so I like to think it could probably put down a little bit more if it was a cooler day, like in like low to mid 60s. But anyway, this could still be a daily driver if you chose to, if you just stay off the floor. But it's hard to. It's hard to not want to just bash that pedal, but that's why we have these cars. These are just my opinions. You can disagree, that's fine, but these are just my views. These are just my opinions. Let me know what you guys think. If you agree with what I'm trying to say, if I think these cars are going to continue to increase in value, specifically because of the fact they are the last of the manual transmission GT500s, at least for now. I really don't think they're going to put a manual back in these cars. I don't think that's going to be an option even in the next generations. I wish they would, but I don't think they are. Leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. If you're watching this, hit subscribe if you haven't already. I have a goal here soon of trying to hit 1,000. Like, comment. You guys have a good one, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.